welcome back to So There I Was. I'm your host again, Travis Womack. Today's guest is Mike Boscia. He's a former Marine from 2002 to 2006, chemical specialist. And Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, Travis, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So, first things first, we kind of been chit chatting here for a bit before we hit the record button. I like to start with everybody as a guest is kind of this, when did you join, why, and kind of what started it for you?
So I joined the Marine Corps in 2002. Prior to that, I grew up in Westchester County, which is the first county above New York City. For those of you that are from New York State, you know that depending on where you're from, determines where upstate starts. So if for all of you city dwellers and from the folks out on Long Island, Westchester's not upstate. We're just gonna get that out there.
Oh man,
But
there's a follow-on debates following coming. I can tell.
um, so I was a volunteer firefighter in New York City. And on September 11th, I was taking a class at SUNY WCC, Westchester Community College, and I listened to Howard Stern and Robin Quivers back when they were on 92.3 K-Rock, back when they were on terrestrial radio,
Wow.
describe the first tower falling. I was sitting at, I don't remember the name of the road. I was sitting at this intersection, and I listened to them describe it. And for if you know any volunteer firefighters, you know that like they're like the county or whatever the dispatching organization is going to go push whatever buttons they have to dispatch and open up the pagers for a specific department. I heard something I had never heard before, and I hope nobody ever hears ever again. It was base tones for the county. So they activated every pager for every firefighter in the entire county. They say, and they said, I'm paraphrasing, like report to your firehouses and await further instruction.
Wow.
So that's what I did. Drove, back into Bedford and, went into the firehouse and I watched the second tower fall sitting on the table in the media room and watching it happen on the big screen. And we ended up, everybody in Westchester County got sent to Yonkers Raceway. If memory serves, and I might get the number wrong, don't at me. The I believe 9/11 was a 53 alarm fire, something like that. So many of the firefighters died that because it happened in between the shift change. Who's going to drive home to Long Island or Poughkeepsie or wherever you live? Who's going to just get on the train and go home when the biggest fire ever in the history of the city is
Yeah.
raging? The two most iconic buildings that we had, are in danger. Who's gone over that? The answer is nobody. So that's why you see all the pictures of guys literally hanging off trucks as they're heading down there. But when two buildings fall on most of the firefighting equipment in the city, guess what? There's a giant hole in the ground, there's a mass casualty event. The rest of the city still needs firefighting equipment and
Right.
firefighters to run them. Like they just destroyed a whole bunch of combat power, if you
Yeah.
will.
Oh yeah.
So
Assets.
they
Yeah.
activated all of the surrounding counties and started pulling equipment into the five boroughs to staff and put equipment.
To fight regular fires. Yeah.
Yeah, just to do that. We didn't get to go. However, I'm going to be jealous till the day that I die. The folks at Banksville, the department next door to us, got to go to, and I was standing next to them when they heard this. They're like, Banksville Fire Department, engine company, and I'm like, 82. I look up and I'm like, do you guys know where you're going? They're like, no, what are you talking about? There was a famous book written, Report from Engine Company 82. The same guy ended up writing Report from Ground Zero, and they got to go to that fire, like a famous, like it was a famous
Wow.
firehouse. So we ended up getting released eventually, and I went home, like went to sleep, got up the next day, grabbed a buddy of mine, and drove. And we put on all of our gear and we just drove into the city. We got stopped by the NYPD right at 42nd Street, but it's two guys in a black Durango with a big blue light bar.
Mhm.
And we roll in the window and they see two guys wearing full firefighter turnout gear. They're like, yeah, go all the way down to all the way down the West Side Highway until you can't go anymore, and then figure it out. And we're like, okay. when we got to Alphabet City, which is in Lower Manhattan, for those of you that don't know that, it looked like a zombie, literally like one of those apocalypse, because it was dark from all the from all the concrete dust and everything. There's dust. There's newspaper and trash flying around. No streetlights and no people. So it literally
Creepy.
looked. It was creepy as hell, and it looked just like one of those movies. Like 30 seconds before the horde of zombies comes turning around the corner and
Yeah.
starts chasing people. That didn't happen, of course.
The rabid dog's coming around the corner.
Yeah, yeah. Or Resident Evil or whatever.
Yeah.
So we get down to ground zero and we start digging, and we were digging for remains. And we were talking, Travis, earlier about like dark humor. Every time we would find a body part, we would call over a paramedic or an EMT, and they would, put it in a little baggie.
Oh yeah.
And we're digging. We're basically just pawing through this mess that used to be the Twin Towers. And my buddy like elbows me. I'm like, what? I look over and, is that what I think it is? He goes, yep. And he goes, excuse me, chief, paramedic. Um, I got something. And he holds it up, and everybody goes, "Oh!" It's about that much of somebody's favorite organ.
Oh man.
It was just like, damn, that's okay. All right. Um, and that was a very interesting day. I wouldn't, of course, I wish it never happened. Had that not happened, I think the, the last 20 something years of the century would have been different. But
Very.
as a result of that, I you know, those were my buildings. I was a New Yorker. That the Twin Tower. I still get misty every time I see them in a movie or whatever.
An old Friends episode.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I want to say probably about it was a couple of weeks later, is whenever the next Fleet Week was. Um, you this was over 20 years ago, so my sense of time was a little warped. Whatever the next Fleet Week was, uh, my sister and I went to a Dave Matthews concert. I'm almost ashamed to admit that now. And we ended up hanging out with these midshipmen. And I'm like, and I don't know why I asked them the question this way. I'm like, tell me about the Marines on your ship. And they're like, well, we're always behind them. Well, what do you mean? Like, other than I didn't say it this way, but this is how my brain runs it. Like, aside from when the rounds are coming down range, like what does that mean? They're like, they get to go to the gym first. They're always eating chow before we are. And they come running down the passageway. We have to get out of their way. They get off, they get leave, they get shore leave first. Like, we're always behind the Marines. And I'm like, and you guys are like sort of officers, right? They're like, well, we're midshipmen cadets, but yeah, kind of. I'm like, that's cool. And within a week, I went to the recruiter, took the practice ASVAB, so hungover that my hands were shaking, and the guy's like, "What'd you do?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. I don't feel so good." He's like, "You missed three." I'm like, "Oh, okay. That
It
that's
works.
that that'll work." He's like, "So what do you want to do?" I'm like, "Okay. Well, how does this whole thing work?" And apparently not all apparently not every recruit asked these questions, and apparently not all recruiters gave similar answers or volunteered said information. For those of you that don't know, in the Marine Corps, we get their MOS, our military occupational specialty codes are 4 digits. The first two define the occupational field or OC field. The second two numbers define what the actual job is. So I had a lot of friends that went aviation common core, like, I'm going to be a crash rescue fireman. And they got to the end of MCT and they're like, you're going to be an aviation ordnance technician. And they're like,
Mm.
that's not what I wanted to do. So you got that big old book of stuff. I'm going through it. I'm like, what's this? And they explained it. I'm like, so I'm in an uncomfortable suit, an uncomfortable mask, in the most dangerous environment possible. And their guy's like, yeah. I'm like, do that, because I already do that. Like, I'm a fireman. And he's like, Oh, okay. And there's no other job in this field. Well, the only other one is a warrant officer. You got to work your way up to that. So unless I screw up terribly at some point, like this is the job I'm gonna have. They're like, yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, I ended up as the NBC clerk and then the NBC Marine for First Battalion, Fifth Marines. Coolest motto as far again, don't at me. Coolest motto in the entire military, other than maybe the special forces, but I'll still put it up there with us. It's make peace or die.
I like that. It's pretty good. I
You
like
know,
that. It's a good one. Sorry, I have to jump in on that one because it just triggers something as stories do. Hence why this podcast exists. Is so when I joined, I went to be a special forces candidate, right? And when you're going through the course, like every course has the course number, whatever, and we had to create our own motto. We had to go create our own guidon. And I was in a winter class, and it was so freaking cold at Fort Bragg, Fort Victor
where,
or Fort Liberty,
where no, it's Bragg and it's always going to be Bragg. Where are you from, Travis?
Texas.
Oh, so
Yeah,
that's why you think
from
it
West
gets cold
Texas.
in North Carolina.
Well, so I was at Fort North Carolina for 5 years, and it snowed twice. And one of those times was when I was in the Q course. Just like
Oh,
seriously, this is not my thing. And I mean, it was only 20 degrees and snowing, but for me, I'm like, that doesn't. I mean, it's been 20 degrees the past 3 days here, and half of Dallas is shut down. So, um, but so our class, it was just cold at all times. It never got above freezing. And so our motto, we took the SF dagger logo, and it normally points down. We pointed it up, and we put two boots on each side, or acorns, the kind of acorns looking boots. And our motto was, "At least my nuts are warm." So our cadre were like, "That's original. I like it." So if you go to the JFK museum, they have all the guidons like on
oh, that's
display.
cool. That's
So you
very
can,
cool.
I saw that. I was like, I was there when we thought of that horribly inappropriate motto. Good times. So, well, man, that's a powerful story though to hear. Like, I mean, I joined for the same reason, just not near as involved. I mean, I was in college. I mean, everybody remembers their 9/11 day. If you're of age at all, I dropped out of college to my parents' delight and joined. And I went back and finished school, but it was it's a moving time, I think, for a lot of us. How old were you? No.
I went to Paris Island at the age of 22.
So yeah, we're the same age. I joined when I was 22 and turned 23 in basic training. So, which I advise nobody to ever go basic training of any sort when it's your birthday. It's a terrible idea. You do a lot of push-ups. So my cousin sent her entire youth group mailed me a letter or card saying happy birthday. So I got like 65 letters on my birthday, and I had to do 10 push-ups per letter. I'm like, thanks, Lindsay. Appreciate that.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate
I feel so loved. I'm in such great shape. So,
it.
but so he joined your NBC guy, which is being on the Army side is, as we chatted here before, is very true. It's a job that nobody wants, but everybody knows who you are. And because like if it ever it's one of those jobs, I would argue that if you have to do a lot of work, it's not good.
A lot of very bad things have
Yeah,
happened if the NBC guy's working hard.
yeah, exactly. It's like normally it's like, well, when I was in command years later, I had an NBC guy. He was my orderly room. Like he just helped me with leave forms and stuff. It's like he had nothing to do other than check masks every quarter or whatever it was, twice a year. Didn't.
Really, we were always like even we were always doing training. Like I was probably
Yeah.
doing
Well,
at least.
I was in the command of the old guard, so we didn't do
Oh,
a
oh,
lot of that
oh,
tactical
yeah,
stuff. Kind of didn't
yeah.
happen.
Okay, that yeah, not
So like
like
any normal roster, like okay, we have to have a chemical guy, a signal guy, or gal, all these things. It's like, well, we have those people, but like we did ceremony. So I'm like, you're my orderly room guy, and every now and then go down the hall and check the blocks for the mask, or whatever. And we're like, we don't have time to go do NBC gas room stuff. And I was in a combat unit, a whole different ball game. That guy was busy. So, I'm sure without a doubt, if you're an NBC guy, you have to tell me one good story of just hilarious just watching guys' brains come out their nose in the gas chamber.
So, uh, um,
Or at least school. Your school had to be fun.
well, so I don't know. So one of the cool things is that one of my classmates actually ended up becoming a hi Ian, if you end up listening to this. Uh, one of my buddies who I went to NBC school with actually ended up becoming the chief instructor of the schoolhouse. So it was
Oh
very
wow.
interesting to see that come around full circle. He recently retired, living out near Jacksonville. But we I believe this is what we were told, that we were one of the last, if not the last, NBC school class to do the Ironman challenge in the chamber out in the field, where like all the students go in there and you basically see who can last the longest. And
No, thank
one
you.
of our fellow students decided, all right, that's it, I'm out, I'm done. Walked out of the chamber, must have stayed a little too long, passed out and face planted. When I say passed out, like he just went forward,
Done.
no bracing, just face right into the ground. Ended up getting out on a medical. I don't feel so bad for him because Nick was able to find his way into, I believe, one, if not two companies that I believe were acquired by LinkedIn, which was then acquired by Microsoft. And none of those things would have happened had he not, you know, been able to hack it
Yeah.
in the Iron Man chamber. So I think for Nick it kind of worked out. Um, so my my NBC school story, for those of you that don't know, every soldier, sailor, airman, and marine, and yes, guardian.
I have no
I mean,
idea.
do you have NBC in space?
If we do, I think we're screwed. So
Yeah, that's a whole nother. That we're now talking science fiction. But
yeah,
anyway, we didn't have guardians back then. But wow, I feel old. Get off my lawn. Um,
exactly.
the graduation exercise for all branches of service, because everybody goes to Fort Leonard Wood or Fort Lost in the Woods for NBC school training. And the graduation exercise is the CDTF, the Chemical Defense Training Facility, where you are fully encapsulated in MOP4, suit, boot, mask, gloves, in a live nerve agent environment.
So,
So when you're Marine, NCO, or clerk, when you're chemical soldier or whatever was standing in front of you saying, "This is how you wear your gas mask and the rest of your stuff," the reason he or she could stand here and say that with absolute authority is they've been
done it.
exposed safely to things that will kill you. It doesn't actually
Yeah.
melt your face off. You know, that's not how VX works. You know,
Hey, I
you
watched
know,
The Rock. It's how it works. Oh,
yeah,
no,
yeah, that's not how that works.
the
Um,
little green balls. It doesn't. No,
yeah,
darn.
no, no, you know. It's you want to talk to how burster charges works for chemical rounds? Go talk to the EOD guys. I saw a diagram once. I could maybe draw it if you put a gun to my head. That was not my area of expertise. The point of the story is we're standing in a room full of live nerve agents, me, three or four of our instructors. And while my last name is Boscia, I was raised and was raised Jewish, and everybody knew that. So I turned to one of my instructors and kind of get their attention. Like, and you remember the mop suit's got like pockets on it. So I start like feeling my pockets. They're like, Boscia, what are you looking for? I'm like, I forgot my washcloth. And they're like, why do you need a washcloth? And I'm like, I was told I could shower in here. I could see their eyes
Oh,
just like bug out of their
oh
head.
my
And
God.
everybody that heard me bends over and puts their hand on their face. Is one of the things you get taught pretty quickly is if you're going to laugh in a gas mask, which
Push
is
it.
the one place you don't
Oh
care to
my.
get in, is you put your hand on your face to keep, because a laugh can actually push the thing off your face. So everybody's
Yeah.
bent over, laughing their asses off. Because I just made a Jew in the gas chamber joke.
Oh man. It's so wrong, but it's so
Oh yeah.
hilarious. Oh my God.
How are you? You son of a bitch. Yeah.
That's
So Staff
only
Sergeant Bermudez, yeah. Staff
it's
Sergeant Bermudez and thinking with his meat housing group instead of his brain housing group, and Staff Sergeant Stinnett, who we figured out one day We're just looking at him, it's like, that guy looks like Inspector Gadget. Hey, Staff Sergeant, what do you want? Give your all weather coat? Yeah, why? Can you wear it to class tomorrow? What? Like, we'll buy you lunch. I don't even remember what the hell we said we would do. And he's like, okay. And we're like, yep. So for the whole day, we were going, like, following around, going, "Pop, pop, 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 pop." It's like, you guys are assholes. You're all going to pay for this. We're like, totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Oh man.
Another quick, hopefully quick story about that. As you can probably imagine, I, I'm I do this. I do this for a living.
You're from New
I'm
York.
an
It's
account.
part of the, it's
Yeah,
part of the
I'm
blood.
from New York. I'm an Italian Jew, a pizza bagel from New York. I talk, and I now talk for a living, and that's there's a significant inventory control piece, or at least there used to be roughly 20 years ago in the NBT community. But the primary function of that job, under normal circumstances, is instructor trainer. And the way I've always thought of it, once it kind of came to me, was you're teaching a technical set of skills and imparting technical knowledge to functionally non-technical people. The same content, but you're going to deliver that period of instruction very differently to a room full of privates than you are to the division commanding general and his staff. Same, same information, two very different delivery
Oh
models.
yeah.
And the first class that they teach you, at least back then, is how they're going to teach you the systems approach to training: lecture, demonstration, practical application, gain attention, blah 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 blah, all that stuff.
Right.
And it stuck with me. So one day, I managed to go an entire morning without really speaking in class. Pretty impressive. Came back from afternoon chow, and I think it was still Gunnery Sergeant Muse, who's the chief instructor, was like, "Hey, Boscia, yes, Gunnery Sergeant. You okay? Yes, Gunnery Sergeant. Why?" He's like, you've been quiet all morning, just trying to fly under the radar. It's like, you've done a great job. Now get your ass up here. I, Gunnery Sergeant, walk up, and he hands me a bottle of Propel Fitness water, and I'm like, all right. He goes, I want you to give this class. I want you to give the platoon a hip pocket class on this bottle of water. Go. And I'm like, good afternoon, Marines. My name is Lance Corporal Boscia, and this period of instruction will be on Propel Fitness Water. You will not be tested on this material, and you might not actually need to listen to a single word I say. But should you find yourself in need of liquid refreshment and electrolyte supplementation, Propel Fitness Water may be a good choice for you. So you may want to pay some attention to this period of instruction. My name is Lance Corporal Boscia, and this is Propel Fitness Water. Marines, Gatorade, Propel is a Gatorade brand, and Gatorade was invented by scientists at the University of Florida who were trying to figure out how to get electrolytes back into the body of their football players while they were playing the game, because guys are just dropping dead in that
swamp.
In that hot Florida sun playing football. And I went on for like another 2 or 3 minutes, and he goes, all right, you're done. Put finger effing my water bottle. Hand it back to him, and he's like, all right, you can go sit down. And I thought that I might be good at this NBC thing. As I'm walking back to my seat, the chief instructor goes, the Marines, I hope you were paying attention, because that's how that's done. And I'm like, all right. Like, I'm never going. I've told that story. Hey, Captain. So this is Enzo. We're
got a stray visitor there.
Yes, there you go. That is one of my favorite stories to tell. It's one of the reasons that most people hate public speaking. I enjoy it. I'd like to think that I'm good at it, and it's because I was fortunate enough to qualify for and chose NBC Defense in the United States Marine Corps, and I got to talk to people for the most part for a living for the better part of 4 years. And that same gentleman took me aside, like a week or two later, some number of weeks later, and he's like, hey, Boscia, yes, Master Sergeant, because he got promoted at that point. He's like, where do you want to go? I'm like, I want a West Coast victory unit, because I joined the Marine Corps to go to war. I'd been talked out of being a machine gunner. but I still wanted to, at least try to get some. So I asked for a West Coast Victor unit, and I got First Battalion, Fifth Marines, which I thank God, the cosmos, the flying spaghetti monster, Master Sergeant Muse, you know,
Oh yeah,
I got exactly what I wanted.
that's great. So I had to ask because so you're the second Marine on the show, and the first one was a Marine a long time ago in the late '80s and stuff. So it's a little different time. So you're the first GWAT Marine. So
Mhm.
kudos to you on that one. So a couple of fun questions I have to ask is my Army buddies. If I don't ask, they'll punch me.
Sure.
So are you issued the crowns after basic training or during?
Oh, so the crayon thing actually came long, I believe, fairly long after I came out. I forget what the name of the and you can go back in. I don't know how much editing you do, but you actually have to go find the cartoon. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I can send a link to you.
Yeah.
But it's actually this cartoon of like very badly drawn and poorly spelled
Yep.
things where a it's basically a pair of soldiers
Yeah.
giving a Marine a hard time because, and they're like, "Hey, Marine, have you tried the new crayon MRE?" And the Marine's like,
Yep.
"No." And, two of you handed one of us, a bag of crayons, and Marine's like, "Nom, nom, nom," and the two soldiers like, "Heh, heh, heh." And like either the last panel or the second to last panel is the Marine going, "Hey guys, y'all got any jalapeno cheese?" It's like,
So-
he's enjoying it. I was
so-
like,
Dang it.
but that,
I remember that.
as far
I
as
remember
I know,
that.
that's where the crayon thing comes from.
Yeah. So I saw the coolest coin. I think it came through my LinkedIn. Somebody posted it. It was probably the coolest coin I've ever seen, other than the spinner ones. But it was kind of like a slanted box, and it was like if you saw like a crayon box, right, with the lid all the way open, and like someone took a big old bite, like a cookie bite, out of a whole
That's
bunch of
hilarious.
them, and it was a commander's coin. I'm like, that's somebody who's embracing the suck. That's I mean, it's just like just embrace it and go with it. It's a lot of fun. I think it's um I knew that story you just told, and I think um it's a true to statement of like of that's what the Marines stand for, which is embrace it and move on. And I 20 years in the Army for me, but I originally wanted to be a Marine. That was my goal. But the Marines couldn't guarantee that I could be a paratrooper. I could jump out of planes. That's all I ever wanted to do. So,
Mm.
and I was like, well, I know I can do it over here, and I can do it
We,
regularly.
I was actually just talking about that with somebody the other day. We eventually fixed that. You eventually could get a
Yeah,
recon contract.
yeah. But at the time in 2003 when I joined, they're like, man, you can attempt to go to recon all these things, but even those guys don't jump that often. I was like, I wanted to do it all the time, and so
Hmm.
go to the largest airborne division in the world, and we jumped all the freaking time. So
Yeah,
it was,
for
and
sure.
I always joke, with the crown thing, but it's people look at the paratroopers and like, you do realize we don't really have a tactical need for this, like hardly at all. I mean, it's like a 2% chance we ever would need to really, really, really do that. If we do, it has hit the fan so bad. I'm like, that's very true, but that's not what we do it. We do it because we know going to work that everybody we work with is just as stupid as we are. And there's something about working with people that everybody around you is at the same level of like, well, this is a pretty crazy idea. Let's go. You just trust everybody, even so much more.
At least once, I want to go out with a couple of the local, because I live in Raleigh, an hour, just a little bit over an hour from Bragg, and about 2-ish hours from Lejeune and Jacksonville. Just once, I'd like to go hang out with a couple of the Ranger and SF guys that I've become friends with over the years
Mm.
here. I just want to be at a bar. I just want to. I mean, I'm. Would I get my ass beat if if has anybody actually just like gone out and just started singing "Blood on the Risers" just for the shit of it, or like does that actually ever happen? Because like I've seen videos of that, and it's one of
Yeah.
the coolest
It's
things
a cool.
I've
I had that
ever
on. I had
seen.
that on a. My fiance bought me a
I have it on my phone.
yeah. Well, she got me a hoodie, and it has this skeleton paratrooper on the back of it, and it says, "What a hell of a way to die." And I wear that. I get some weird looks. People are like, what? I don't get it. I'm like, if you've never done it or you're not familiar with it, you have no idea.
Yep.
Yeah, that is probably one of my favorite like generational things. And I think it's what the paratroopers, I think, is so fun. And the Marines too, is that there's a history, a lineage of kind of a DNA of what defines that. And the Marine Corps, people don't realize this, truly know the scale of things, and that it's a corps, and the Army has what, 5 corps. So it's literally the whole entire Marines is less than 1/5 of the entire Army. And but the paratroopers, we can all see each other. We can see a World War II vet, and there's this connection over the years. And I love that about the Marines too, that you can see a World War II Marine, and there's just this like pride, I guess is probably the best word to go with. And I love that. And I don't think every job has that, and I think sailors probably have a version of that. Submarining back into World War I, it was a whole different ballgame than submarining today. Just in more ways than we can describe in the one podcast. But I think it's really, really cool to, like, when you see where we've come from and what makes us, and then what we are today. And we walk around with our chest out, and but like, I don't know you, the reason I started this podcast, we're talking about earlier, is like, I love walking through like Home Depot or like Cabela's, and I see guys with a vet on their vest and stuff, and we just have this immediate connection. There was a time that we all said, "I got a crazy idea," and we follow through. So, but Mike, man, I would love to sit here and just chat all night long. I think you and I have a whole lot of fun and probably drive our families crazy. Like, go to bed. But what I would love to do is have you back on the show, honestly.
Yeah, anytime.
Another day. And I think there's from what you were telling me at the beginning, having those big reunions y'all had, there's got to be a couple Marines that would love to jump on here as well. And I think we can probably get a really good group story. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and probably not G-rated, and I'm okay with that. So, but that's honestly my goal, to get these reunion smallish groups together and have a good time. But is there anything that what you're currently doing now? I know you've gone through quite a few different occupations and stuff. What are you doing now?
So right now I am an account executive, a salesperson with Logic Monitor. We sell observability software. So when you're tired of pointing fingers and getting fingers pointed at you, and your information technology, you like to be able to clearly and easily articulate the relationship between the technology that runs the business and the outcomes that the business requires. Um, and you happen to have a business between 500 and 5,000 people in the North Carolina, South Carolina, or the greater Atlanta metro area, I'm your guy.
All
I'd
right.
love to talk to you. It's a simplest way to say it is, we help people suck less at IT, because everything's hard. We try to make it less hard.
So that's a great line, actually. I like that. I may have to steal that one. So, well, thanks for coming on the show. And by all means, reach out to Mike for what he's currently doing. I try to give everybody a little shout out, little love on what they're doing, if it's on a book or website or whatever it is. But we'll have you back on for sure. And if you're new to the show, by all means, please subscribe, and give Mike some love and give it a listen to. We'll see you next time.